in a cage with my doubt. I've tried forever getting out on my own. Every time I do this my way, I get caught in the lies of the enemy. I lay my troubles down, I'm ready for you now. Bring me out, come and find me in the dark now. Every day by myself I'm breaking down. I don't wanna fight alone anymore. Bring me out, from the prison of my own pride. My God, I need a hope I can't deny. In the end I'm realizing I was never meant to fight on my own.
Alright boys, it's your boy King Natsuki here, back at it again with a new spanking hot what if. And I cannot believe you guys literally have Naruto, Deku, and Goku levels of dense. You couldn't even guess who the person in the photo was. And if any of you are Mario fans, I am extremely disappointed. Now you might be wondering, wait, who's this? This is friggin' Boosette. Yes, this is what if Deku, well, female Deku, was Boosette. Part 1. I can't believe you guys are so dense. But it is expected from you all, after all. I can't expect everyone to know exactly what I post. Now can I? But let's get into this what if. Now, I forgot to mention, this ship is a Yuri ship, and it does have gender bending and age bending in it. Okay? If you don't like that, then get the hell out of my channel. And then get the hell out of my video, okay? And I do not want any Karens in the comments posting any crap about the video. Okay? If there is any Karens in the comments, I'll delete your post almost instantaneously. Understand? But now, let's get into this. What if? Oh, I forgot to mention. Deku will have 2 forms. This form, which is her human form. And this is her human-esque form. And then this form, which is her full-on Boo form. I forgot to mention some of Boo's abilities. She's manipulation over purple lightning. And fire. Ice. She can possess things. She can multiply herself. Boo can multiply itself. Turn people into paintings. Alter reality. And much, much, much more. Fly, change size, and eat you whole. And also turn invisible. I'm pretty sure that might be a couple of the abilities, or maybe all of them. I have no clue. But, anyways, now y'all might be wondering, wait, why are you doing this one instead of all the other what ifs we've been asking you to do? Huh? Well, the reason I'm doing this one instead of your other ones, is because simply, last night, I look up something. What if female Deku was Bousette? Because I like Bousette. She's a friggin' awesome character. And I see there's hundreds of these videos. I search what if Deku was a Boosette. Dust. Nothing. There literally is nothing left. And there's literally nothing. And so, courtesy of me, Kei Natsuki, I am creating What If Deku was. What female Deku was Boosette. One other thing, no, this will not be a quirk. Understand? Not a quirk. Her being Boosette is not a quirk, nor will she be the reincarnation of Boosette. Allow me to explain just a bit better. You see, when Deku was first born, she was a innocent young girl in a Victorian era, esque world. She was pretty much the queen, as her mother passed away from illness, and she was made the queen. Now, of course, this meant she would have many suitors try to Rai to win over her love. However, one suitor captured her heart. This suitor had golden yellow hair. Basically, it's All Might's great 1,000, maybe even 10,000 times great grandfather. Okay? Now, this man basically captured her heart. And she thought she was perfectly in love. And so they talked, and they actually got to know each other really well. However, one night they eventually got married. And then one night, or the night of their marriage, Boosette was basically on a balcony, as she was basically looking at the stars and the moon. As then Tosh, as pretty much All Might's ancestor, would walk into the room. Now, just for fun, I'm gonna say that his name was Yushigari. Okay? Yushigari would walk in the room. And he would see her at the balcony, and he would have a knife in hand. Well, behind his back, more like it. If he would walk up to her and say, "Hey, beautiful night, huh?" And she would say, "Yeah." And then, well, something unexpected would happen. You see, it would have, out of nowhere, a tornado would have appeared. And the wind would have been so violent that it would, basically, there would have been a giant gust of wind, and it would have been so violent, and easy, and, well, Izumi is so, and Izuna, yes, that's her name, Izuna is so weightless and thin that she was literally blown off the balcony as she was holding it, and as she was basically hanging off of it and holding it with one hand, and holding on with one hand as she said, "Yushigari, pull me up, please." As Yushigari would just smile and say, "You know, I was planning on killing you. I was planning on killing you at our honeymoon. But this is much better." As he then said, You really think I would love you? Please. You're a naive, foolish, young girl. You're a naive, foolish little girl. Girl, who just so happens to be queen, and I need to be king. Therefore, I kill you. I become the sole ruler of this land. So, die, you filthy pig. Die, you filthy hog. As he would then and throw her hand off of the part of the balcony she was holding on, as she would fall, screaming to her death. As it would sound like, ha ha! No, it would sound like, hold on. As Azuna would have a terrifying shrill scream. It would sound like this. As she would be falling down and down and down all the way to her death. As her castle was on a giant was basically on a mountain. As she would be hurling down towards her death, screaming for her life. And you know what? She would die. As when she hit the ground, she would be... As when she hit the ground, she would basically... She would be... I do not want to say this because it might be very gory for some people, but okay. She would fall down towards a giant grove of trees, which it was basically like August or the middle of winter, and all the trees were basically giant without leaves. Now these trees, because this is a medieval fantasy timeline and era, these trees would have metal-like properties. She would fall and be skewered alive as she lay there screaming in pain. Help! 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 She would scream and 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 scream until eventually you would die of blood loss. And a lightning bolt, because these trees, as I said, they have metal-like properties, and it's like a storm going on. So she would have been electrocuted and dead from blood loss. As the next day, when she woke up, she woke up. What used to be nice, luscious green hair that flowed freely and that was short and tied up turned into white, gray, pale, silky hair that flowed freely throughout the air, as her eyes that were once like emeralds would turn to amethysts. her teeth would have gotten sharper, and her ears would definitely have gotten a bit pointier. As she would say, What? What? What happened? I remember Yoshigari killing me. As she would be panicking and in fear. As then she would say, okay, first things first, kill. I gotta. As she would basically be thinking for a couple of days in this, well, I guess you could say, a forest of metal, like trees. She would be in this forest-like area, thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. And she would then, as eventually, over a timeline of a few weeks, she would become mentally unstable. And she would think, okay, I'm going to kill Yoshigari. Yes, he killed me, I kill him. That's fair, isn't it? As pretty much, she would then say, no, I'm not going to kill him. As she would then get an idea. As I said, this is a fantasy-like era, where in fantasy there is magic. So her mother, I'm gonna say, dabbled in some witchcraft. And, well, was actually increasingly good. As she would be basically searching through her mother's old studies, and she would then think, and she would basically try all sorts of spells that she could use to torture and to harm Yoshigari. As, yes, and as, well, she would not have the right compatibility for most of the spells. However, she would have the compatibility for one spell in particular. The ability to basically trap people inside of objects. However, she would need to think of one object, as her mother chose vases. She would literally trap people inside of vases because her mother would like seeing her enemies as things she put flowers in, as her mother was a bit of a gardener. She, however, was not like that. As she would then think, I know, as she would float throughout, and she would float into the basement of the palace. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, she also has intangibility, because, she's a ghost! Of course she's gonna be able to go through walls and other stuff. So, yeah. She would basically go through the castle, while being invisible, and go to the basement, as she would see empty frames, as she'd think, yes, this'll do very, very, very nicely. As she would grab the frame, and then she would do the spell. hell, as now she could trap people inside of paintings, I guess you could say. As she would then say, Yushigari is going to be in a world of hurt. As she would grab a old, but still extremely sharp knife from the basement, as it would be a family heirloom, I guess you could say. Like a katana. Because we're still in Japan, people. We are still in Japan. As she would grab this family heirloom, and she would say, I have the perfect idea what to do with this. As that night when Yushigari was asleep, he would be awoken. As he would then see this floating right next to him. As she would say, Yushigari, guess what? I'm back. As she would do that menacing boo laugh that we all know and love. The ha, I can't do it. Hold on. As she would sound like this. Ignore the piano you hear. As Izuna would say, hey, I'm going to give you more pain than you could ever imagine. As she would grab the fairy family heirloom and stab him at multiple semi-vital locations. And he was basically paralyzed. He could not move. As he said, What? How are you even alive? How are you even alive? As she would say. You ever hear something called ghosts theory? As she would grab the katana and keep slashing at him. Now, somehow he would still be alive, as she would then puncture his heart just a bit. Now he would be slowly dying, as she would say, now the real fun begins. As she would basically, a purple beam of lightning would radiate out of her hand, as she would then have a painting frame, or a painting, float up right next to her, and she would say, hey, you're going to be like this. Almost dying, but still alive. Forever. As he'd then say, what? As she would then, and pretty much put him inside of the painting. As he would be, and as his last scream would be the last sound he ever heard from him would be a shrill, terrifying, and short scream. As he'd say, ah! And he'd die. Well, not die, he would be trapped inside the painting forever. As she would then hang it in the front hall for everyone. She would hang it above her throne for everyone to see. As in the morning, everyone would see the painting and would be a bit more confused. As, well, no one would ever see Yoshigari again. But they would see this creepy painting with Yoshigari dead in it. As they'd say, well, that's very disturbing. As, well, over time, more and more people would try to buy the castle and would try to buy her palace and live there. People would try to rule over the lands. And you know what happened to all of these people? The same fate. Fate for every single one. They would be asleep. You would hear a scream, and then there would just be a new painting on the walls. As before she was a ghost, there was no paintings in the entire castle. But about 100 years after, about 2 years after, there would be over 300 paintings just hanging all over the castle. And then they would call forth sorcerers and wizards to try and see what the hell was happening. As the wizards and sorcerers, and basically they called forth the whole Dungeons and Dragons team to try and see what was going on. As they would not be going into any of the rooms and would not trying to be sleeping, as they would all be huddling around each other in the throne room. As then at night, they would all think, maybe it's, as they'd all think, is this just a waste of time? And then they would hear that signature boo laugh again. And suddenly, a figure would appear on the throne. As they'd say, what the? Is a demon of some sort? As she would say, well, that is just rude. I'll tell you what. Even though you were rude to me, I'll let you live. After all, you didn't sleep in any of my rooms, and you didn't in any of the palace rooms, and you didn't take anything, and you aren't trying to live here. So, you may go. As she would then use a form of telekinesis. Yes, I'm pretty sure Boo has that, because in the Luigi games, Boo was able to float people up and put them in paintings. Or to manipulate the gravity of objects, pretty much. So yeah, I'm pretty sure she has telekinesis. And he has telekinesis. So, yeah. Now, Izuna would basically use telekinesis and push them all out of the castle. And then, the next day, and the next night, a king from a far land, and from a faraway land, basically England, would enter the castle. This king, of course, is one of the most famous kings of all time. You know him, you love him, he's the man, the myth, the man, the myth, the medieval legend. Sorry, I have bad speaking, sorry. The man, the myth, the medieval legend himself, the Lord of the Knights, the King of Camelot, and the creator of the Round Table, the one, the only, the almighty King Arthur. As Arthur would basically walk into the castle, and he would have been told by various travelers that there was a that there was definitely someone living there and turning people into paintings, as he would want to see what this is, and he would enter, as he'd say, "Show yourself, I mean you no harm," and it would be the middle of the day. And then he would hear the signature Boo laugh, and then Azuna would appear, and she would say, "Hey, so you must be the famous King Arthur of Camelot, huh? Well, I'll tell you one thing, you don't look all that impressive. But, as I've learned before, looks can be deceiving," she would say as she would look at Toshinori's picture, and Yushigari's painting. As she would then say, "Well, what do you want? If you aren't here to fight me, and if you aren't here for any harm, then what are you here for?" As King Arthur would say, "I'm here just to ask you to calm down. Or at least move, vacate, relocate, miss." As Azuna would basically, her eyes would glow a bright purple, and would begin to glow a dark purple, but just a tiny hint of dark purple in her eyes, as she would say, and as her hand would be shaking a bit, and she would say, "Excuse me, this is my home. This is my palace. I'm the queen of this land. I cannot leave. This is my home." And King Arthur would say, "I'm sorry, miss, but if you do not leave, I will have to fight you." And she would say, "I said for the last time, the answer is no. Now leave. Or do you want to end up as a painting? As he'd say, so that's what all these paintings are. You demon!" As he would grab his sword and slash at her. As he would actually, because this sword is Excalibur, the sword of the gods, and it's basically a sword made by gods, it would cut off a tiny bit of her clothes. And she would say, and basically she would be and she would look at him with an angry face and say, You bastard! You have any idea how long it takes to make clothes for ghosts? Huh? You have any idea what types of materials you need to find? You just ruined my outfit. And you just ruined my dress." As she would then and say, "Now you will pay." As her hair would become a lot more spiky and would a lot more longer. Her eyes would become completely dark purple with a light purple fire radiating off of them. Her tongue would become all purple, and her skin would become pale white. And her teeth would become a lot bigger and sharper. As she would then say, "Die, you insolent fool!" And she would then basically create a orb of purple lightning and purple electricity in her hand, as she would then say, "Die!" And she would basically be shooting purple lightning bolts at King Arthur, who would be dodging and blocking with excellent accuracy, because, I mean, seriously, it's King freaking Arthur, the Lord of Legends. as she would then begin using fire and ice attacks as well, and would try to put him in a painting over and over and over. As she would then, I forgot to mention this as well, she can enhance her size, and she can enlarge her size. So basically you'd have a 20-foot angry ghost queen fighting off against, I'm pretty sure, like 6'2" or maybe 5'8", and like 5'8" tall, all human. As he would be attacking him and swinging out in rage. And she would say, "Leave!" And he would say, "Hey, die, you demon!" As he would grab his sword and would plunge it directly through her chest. As he would then say, "Merlin, now!" As Merlin would basically teleport out of nowhere. Because I'm gonna say they kind of have like a telepathic connection going. And Merlin would say, "Hey, be gone, be gone, demon, and be gone, unholy spirit," as he would then seal her away. Or, more precisely, he would seal her inside of a painting. How ironic, huh? He'd seal her inside of a painting, as he would say, and as Merlin would fall to the ground, defeated, as he would say, "I'm almost defeated," as he'd say, "It drained all of my energy to seal her away. And it's not even a permanent seal." As then Arthur would say, "What do you mean it's not permanent?" As she would say, "It's not permanent. In maybe 2,000 years or so, the seal will break, and she'll be free." And Merlin would then say, and Arthur would then say, "Well, at least we have 2,000 years to prepare." As for the first 2 years after that, King Arthur and Merlin would be, preparing for when she was unsealed. However, then the whole business with Morgana would happen, and Arthur would die, or be brought to Avalon, the realm of the fairies. As for Merlin, he would have basically burnt out his life force, but would be healed by Nimue, I'm pretty sure the name is, or no. I cannot remember the name of Merlin's, I cannot remember her name, but Merlin kinda had a crush on, I'm pretty sure. She was a sorceress or elf, or fae. Pretty much, she would, like a myth, hold him and turn into a tree while his wounds healed, which would be forever, because his life force would be draining away, but she would slowly be replenishing it. So it would be a constant fight of survival and death, but that doesn't really matter, as we skip about 2,000 years. About 2,500 years, maybe. As magic was completely forgotten. Sorcerers, knights, and all of that was completely forgotten. as for what was once the beautiful, and what was once Azuna's beautiful palace, was torn down, and a house was built there. As in the basement of that, I'm in a small secret room of that house, however, there is a painting. And there is well, not a small room, there's actually a giant room that basically, it's a interdimensional room. You know how interdimensional rooms work, right? You could be in a one-story house that's very small. You enter it and it's literally like a 3-story mansion inside. Yeah, that's what quantum-dimensional is. Literally breaking the rules of physics. Basically breaking the rules of our reality. And the house would be 2 stories, not that big, but not that small. And just a normal house. And inside, there would be a secret room with hundreds of paintings. And it would basically be like a long hall. And have you ever seen Horn and Here's the Who? You ever see that one long hall with the pictures of all the mayors? Basically imagine that, except at the far back. But all the pictures of people inside the paintings, and at the far back, there's one painting with gold and with a golden purple frame that holds a picture of a ghost in it. And that holds this picture in it. And, of course, this painting is not hanging on the wall, but is basically on a... It's basically encased in a chest that is encased in glass. Right now, there would be people living in the house. These people would be the Shigarakis. If you have no idea who the Shigarakis are, then you need to research a lot more about My Hero Academia. And no, I'm not just talking about the villain Shigaraki. I'm talking about All for One's family. His family name is Shigaraki. As it would be a family home, but the 2 parents would be in America, as the children would be, well, in the house. As the only people that lived there was 2 siblings, a brother and a sister. Now, this is like the current My Hero Academia timeline, and, All Might is a thing in this, but he just has a very strong enhanced quirk. Okay? All Might is still a thing. Just One for All is not. Okay? So, yeah. Pretty much All for One would enter. Pretty much Tomura wait. I don't exactly know his name, but I think it's Tomura because, well, All for One named Shigaraki after his brother, because, I mean, seriously, he literally looks like his brother, just with the scars and the decay, like a crusty version of his brother. And no one really knows All for One or his brother's actual names, so yeah. I'm changing that. And there would be, there would be two siblings. One of them would be Tomura Shigaraki, who would have basically a stockpiling quirk, as he could basically Tomura could touch no. He could beat a person in a fight, and he would be able to use their quirk from seeing it in action, but only if they use it in a fight against them. Okay? And scratch that, not if he beats them, just if he fights a person. Okay? He can get their quirk, but the person still has their quirk. Comprende? Okay. Kisame? Hold on. What? My God. Who thinks that Boosette is Kisame? I mean, seriously. I know they both have sharp teeth. I know they both don't have regular human skin, but seriously, who thinks that this looks like Kisame? Who in the world thinks that this is Kisame? Back to the what if. Sorry. And the second sibling would be named Hizasha Shigaraki. Hizasha's quirk is called All for One. She can take and give quirks. Same as in canon. As the two siblings would live moderately simple lives. As they would, both aspire to become great heroes. While Shigaraki Tomura was the one who always got into fights, he would still be the lesser brother and the lesser sibling, as he would still be weaker than his sister, who had basically imagine all of Deku's fights like in canon, except whenever he fights against a villain, he just takes their quirks. And she just takes their quirks. As Hizasha, right now, would have amassed some powerful quirks. Quirks such as the ability to quirks such as, Stain's ability if he licks your or ingests your blood, you're paralyzed. Or the League of Villains is still a thing in this. I forgot to mention, it's just Tomura Shigaraki goes by Tenko Shimura, and he still has his, I'm pretty sure his ordinary hair color is black, and he still has his decay quirk, so yeah, nothing really big there. But yeah. Pretty much Shigaraki would be pretty much the two Shigaraki siblings would be very strong. And they'd both be in UA. Of course, Tomura taking the place of pretty much Bakugo, being the one who always gets into fights and always starts fights. And then Hizasha being in the place of Deku. As one day the two are basically doing spring cleaning around their house, and Tomura is very insistent on cleaning the whole house till it sparkles like a diamond. And Hizasha just likes tidying up a tiny bit. So the two were cleaning, and well, while they were cleaning, Hizasha would see what they thought of to be a wooden cat statue that just sits there on on top of the fireplace. As she would basically see that it is extremely dusty and try to dust it off a bit. And then the cat's tail would basically go down as if it was a lever. Suddenly the fireplace would begin to glow. As it would glow a blue holy fire. And it would glow a blue fire. And suddenly the fireplace would swirl and swirl and swirl around, and all the fire in it would basically look like a swirling tornado until it turned into a blue fiery door. Literally, like a ordinary door you have in your house, just imagine made out of blue fire and somehow solid. And not burning you. As Hizasha would have called her, and would have called Tomura, and the two would see this giant, and would see this blue fiery door. As the two would enter, and would basically look at each other, and then would look at the door, then look at each other and nod. Odd slightly, as they would walk towards the door and open it, expecting it to burn them. It would not. As they would open the door all the way and enter. They would then see a giant archive and a ginormous hall just filled from wall to wall, ceiling, even on the ceiling, just everywhere, paintings. And they would say, "Holy guacamole." As the two siblings would just be looking at all the paintings and would think this is actually very, very, very nice artwork. But who in their right mind keeps all these paintings behind a weird fire door? I'ma just tell you, Merlin. Obviously, Merlin. as the two would enter and would basically reach the end, as they would see just a case of glass, and inside of it they would just see a small chest encased in glass. And then, well, now Tomura would say, "Don't worry, bro, and don't worry, sis, I got this." As he would have fought a person with a sort of tool quirk, as he would then shapeshift his arm into a buzzsaw and would begin cutting the metal, and would begin cutting the, he'd begin cutting the glass. As when the glass opened, the chest would begin glowing with a purple aura coming from it. As Hisashi would then, as pretty much Tomura would say, on second thought, maybe we should go back. That doesn't look nice at all. As then Hisashi would say, Don't worry, Tomura. It can't be nothing that bad." As she would open the box while Tomura was trying to pull her away, and they would see a painting that looked like this, inside of a gold and purple, inside of a golden and amethyst frame. As they would say, "Holy, who keeps a painting inside of a box encased in glass, inside of a ginormous hall, behind a blue fire door?" Or that's activated when you hit a cat's tail shaped lever. I'm just telling you, Merlin, bitch. As Merlin would have basically placed it through all of these things. Now, he would begin. Now, the two siblings would basically look at the painting, and Tomura would say, "All right, you saw what was in the chest. Now let's go. This room doesn't look very. I'm getting a bad vibe from this room." As Hisashi would have said, "Oh, come on, big bro. You can't. Oh, come on, big bro. Oh, come on, little bro. It can't be that big of a problem. And it can't be that bad." As then she would basically say, "Anyways, I'm taking this picture with me, okay?" And he would say, "Okay." And the two would enter and would basically exit the room, flip the cat's tail, and the fire door would close and turn back into normal flames, and the normal flames would disappear. As the fireplace would then be completely empty. And then the two, basically, Hisashi would take the painting up to her room and put it right next to, and would basically put it on her shelf. As we go into a person to Izuna's point of view, as she is inside the painting, and basically she's awake. As in that room, it was warded with thousands of seals, so she would be basically asleep. However, she's outside, so she's consciously awake but not free. Yet. And she's just looking around as the painting and sees all of this stuff. And she just sees that this is not one of my rooms, but I'm still at my ground, so, huh? So, wait, what? And she'd be confused. And she'd then say, wait a minute, don't tell me some people actually tore down my palace and replaced it with this place. Ugh. God damn it. And God darn it, she would say. Izuna would then say, it's okay. Breathe in, breathe out. And she would then basically see Hizasha and would say, well, that's odd. Who's this girl? As she would begin watching and studying Hizasha and would basically have learned all about quirks via Hizasha telling one of her friends in her room, who was quirkless but lived on a distant island. That person will not be very important to this story at all, so I'm not giving them a name. As Hizasha would one day be betrayed by UA. Well, not UA, because I'm gonna say UA is a college in this one, and she went to a sort of hero training high school. Just like, the last hurdle before UA. Now, she would still go through all those fights, because I'm gonna say this was like the second greatest hero school on planet Earth. Right next to UA, of course. So, yeah. Now, she would then, and one day come in basically saying to Tomura that they betrayed me. I can't believe that. Why would they do that? Now, Izuna would be curious and about what was happening, and Tomura would say, you're lying. No one betrayed you. You're a villain. You're evil. Your quirk is evil, and you are evil. As he would have activated an overhaul-like quirk. He would have sort of activated just a random strength quirk and would basically beat up his sister, who would not be fighting him because she is scared of her brother, even though he's younger than her. And she still cares about him. As we go to Izuna's point of view, as she would say, how dare these humans betray her? How dare they? As she would basically scream in anger. As then purple lightning would begin to spark out of the painting. Now, the two siblings would notice this. As then, I would just notice this tiny jolt of lightning. As then, Tomura would say, I told you there's something not right about this painting. I'm putting it back, you villain. And he would grab the painting and basically be walking away. Now, Izuna would have gotten used to Hazasha and would not want to be asleep and would not want to be sealed back in that room again, as she would say, no, 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 but no one could hear her. As then Hazasha would run over and grab the painting, as she would say, hey, no, this is my painting, I'm not letting you hurt, I'm not letting you put it back. As then he'd say, there's something not right about this painting, it's not normal. As the two would begin fighting over the painting, and then they would basically be using quirks to try and grab the painting from the other. As then Hazasha would activate a basically unholy strength quirk, and well, Tomura would activate a one-for-all level of strength quirk. As the two would begin fighting, and would basically be fighting over it, and then they would notice something, and then they would hear something, just a crack, and then a rip, as the frame of the painting would be cracked from the two fighting over it, and the painting would begin to rip. But they would not notice this until the whole thing was ripped entirely in half. And then from it would rise. And then from it would rise a mysterious purple mist. And out from the purple mist would rise the almighty, the infinite, the all-knowing Cliffhanger. And I'll see y'all all next part. Hope y'all liking this idea. And tell me if you want more. Because I'm going to make more parts to my what if, so yeah. Goodbye.